Here we go. I'm going to start recording so that families who could not attend, I know there was a driver's education meeting tonight. We didn't know each other. We're having a meeting that we weren't on the same calendars. So I felt sad because a few students and families contacted me. So I promised them we were going to record. So I want everyone to know we are recording. I will be sending that out to everyone. I'll also be sending all of the resources and PowerPoints that we look at tonight. So lots of resources coming after tonight. I would like to introduce my wonderful special guest, Matt Deschner. Hi, Matt.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thank you for being here.
Matt is most fabulous. He has been coming to the islands for many, many, many years as an admissions officer for the University of Portland. And so he is a wealth of knowledge, and it's just really, we're really blessed to have him here. So mahalo nui loa for being here tonight. I'm going to start with a PowerPoint. It's going to kind of give our contact information and the agenda, and then we'll stop at various times to ask questions. I'll also have my chat open. Please throw some questions out as we're going along. I'll open it to questions live, but you can also put things on the chat that you want us to address, and we'll both be looking at that so that we can kind of be here for you. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Here we go. So there's my desktop, share, and then I gotta do this.
Everywhere you turn, people try to tell you who to be.
No. All right, we have how to choose a college. We have lots of things. So let's do that. All right, so college planning in the time of COVID. I'm Jamie Gomer Kovacic. I usually go by Jamie Gomer. That's my maiden name. I've had it since I was born. Kovacic I've had for 20 plus years. My husband, Mr. Kovacic, is the auto shop teacher. I kind of go by Gomer usually, but I'm happy to go by Kovacic as well. So either or works for me. My official email is jkovacic. I have that there, and there is my office number. Our special guest, Matt Deschner, and there is his email address. What we'll be covering tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about course selection senior year. That's a very important thing, and students are supposed to be completing that this week on Friday, so I think it's very timely that we kind of touch on what courses to sign up for, what does that look like for your major, what do colleges want versus what do you need to graduate? So we'll discuss that. The college search process, which is finding the right fit, or they're kind of one and the same, but as you're doing your college search, you're looking for that right fit. So we'll discuss right fit, both of us, and then special COVID considerations. You're definitely impacted by COVID in a big way as the current juniors, for testing, for extracurriculars, for all kinds of things. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about admissions testing. We'll talk about extracurriculars. And then at the very end, I'll just touch on financial aid. It's not something you have to worry about right now, as you do not do the FAFSA until October. It will open in October of your senior year. So, but you can, and I'll discuss that, get an estimated family contribution, your EFC. So there's some calculators for that, and we'll talk about need-based aid and merit, and we'll just touch on that a little bit because I know that's very important to families. And we can also, please know that we'll also have financial aid workshops in the fall for families. And then that's something you can also make an appointment with me to discuss. So I know financial aid is very important. At this time, we'll talk a little bit more. The search is a little bit more important right now. So financial aid will be touched on towards the end. And then, of course, we can always meet and talk more in depth about that. So course selection we'll start off with. So there's graduation requirements and there's college requirements. And happily and luckily, a lot of them are the same. And we're going to go over the difference. So here are the DOE graduation requirements. We're not going to go over this in depth because I'm going to send you this PowerPoint. We make sure students have the 4 credits of English and social studies and the 3 credits of math and the 3 credits of science. So we make sure they have that. 8 elective credits, 2 must be a language, fine art, or career tech ed. but not 2 of all of them, just at least 2 of either language or fine art or CTE. So we worry about that. The only time families need to worry is if a student has failed a class. So you definitely, we give you all the classes you need to graduate. It's only if you fail a class that, we need to make sure that we're following up to make sure you recover that. There's honors diplomas and certificates. So the honors is that you have at least a 3.0 and that you also do a 4th credit of math and science. And that in addition, there's 2 credits that are either AP or Running Start, which is college courses. So we'll talk about that as well. STEM honors also requires a 4th credit of math and a 4th credit of science. But instead of the 2 AP courses or Running Start courses, you need to successfully complete a STEM capstone project. Career Tech Education Honors, that's a very specific program of study. There's like 2 to 3 courses in the sequence. Earn a B or better in each required program of study, and then meet or exceed proficiency on a performance-based assessment. I'll give you an example. There is building and construction. So you would have to do at least the core and building construction 1. The required program of study is geometry because you need to understand angles. So you would need a B or better in that. And then you would also have to meet or exceed proficiency in a performance-based assessment. All right. So again, we didn't spend a long time on the high school graduation requirements because we're more talking about college planning. So now what? What about after you get all those courses? So colleges may have different requirements than we require for graduation. And the ones I really want to highlight that are the most important, these courses are not required by the DOE, but you generally will need these for a university. Algebra 2, we require 3 years of math. And so Algebra 1, geometry, and then in junior year, you can either choose Alg 2 or Modeling Our World. Modeling Our World is kind of a bridge to Alg 1 and Alg 2. And so if you're in Modeling Our World, we just want to make sure you're taking Algebra 2 in senior year. If you're in Algebra 2, we want you to take Trig Pre-Calc senior year. If you're in the honors track and you're taking Trig Pre-Calc, your choices are AP Statistics or AP Calculus. And if you're wondering about which of those 2 courses to take, you can contact me directly. Your student can contact me. We can talk about what majors you're looking at. Engineering, aerospace, there's some where AP Calc is definitely the right choice. And then AP Stats, there's a lot of social sciences. There's a lot of programs where I would maybe lean more towards the AP Statistics. Chemistry, you have to have chemistry. That's just one of those things you need. We don't require chemistry at Kekaulike or in the Hawaii DOE. 9th grade is physical science requirement, 10th grade is biology, and in 11th grade, you can take chemistry or marine science or human phys. I always tell students who want to take human phys to double up in science and take human phys and chemistry. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The important thing is that if they didn't take it in junior year, that they make sure they take it in senior year. 2 years of a corresponding world language. It's really important that you hit that 2nd year. Some colleges don't say you have to have 2 years. They just say that you have to have completed at least that 2nd year. So there's students who maybe came in on the 2nd year, they would be okay. So 2 years is the safe bet. Fine art. Fine art is one of those things I get questions about all the time. Fine art, when I think fine art, I think the UC, the University of California system, and the Cal State system. They have a special A through G requirements, 15 credits, 11 where you need grades. One of those are a fine art. I had a student reach out to me today. They said, I'm definitely staying in Hawaii. I don't want to take a fine art. Do I need to? None of the Hawaii schools require a fine art. So for me, I like students to be safe and have as much options as possible. So if they're interested in a fine art, take it because you just open more opportunities and more options for universities if you have a fine art. All right. So the more selective a university is, the greater the expectations. So as you get more selective, there'll be an expectation that you're taking whatever challenging coursework we have. An AP would be an example. We have a really robust, one of the best AP programs in the state. We offer 13 courses. We have 3 languages. We have Spanish language, Spanish literature, Japanese, we have AP Environmental Science, Computer Science, Physics, Calculus, World History, English Lang, English Lit, it goes on and on. Biology, we have so much art history, which is a fine art, by the way. So sometimes students will get their fine art credit, they'll get that through AP Art History. So again, the more selective a school is, they'll expect a 4th year of science and math. I would call that more a standard expectation. I don't think a school needs to be very selective to expect that you've taken a 4th year of science and math. There are always specific situations where a student, maybe they're going into theater, they're going into music, and they're like, I don't want to take a 4th year of math. And they really have a concrete plan and math is not in it. And that works for them. And I understand that. But in general, there's an expectation you would take a 4th year of science and math. And then it's becoming more and more common. You'd have a 3rd or 4th year of world language, especially in the really selective universities. So we're just going to look at a few colleges that are kind of a little different, so you have an idea of what I'm talking about, um, in looking at it through the lens from a college. So we're just going to first look at our flagship University of Hawaii school. So their requirements are flexible, which is kind of nice for our students. There's the 4 credits of English, which is already built into the DOE, 3 credits of math already built into the DOE. It needs to include geometry and algebra 2. So there you see that algebra 2 requirement again. 3 credits lab science, 3 credits social studies. So far, all these things are built into the DOE other than algebra 2. And then 4 credits other college prep. And those can be a 4th year of math, a 4th year of science, a 4th year of social studies. It can be foreign language. So those are all your other college prep. So foreign language or a 4th year of math, science, or social science would cover those 4 credits. And then 5 credits of elective. Their electives are really flexible: art, dance, band, even PE they take, AVID, computer science. So that's really easy as far as for our students to meet those requirements. 2.8 GPA, a really kind of pretty simple GPA for us to meet. Probably the top 40% rank is a little more difficult than a 2.8. A 2.8 at our school wouldn't put you in the top 40%. So that's good to know. You'd want to hit like 3.3 to be in our top 40%. And that 2.8 is the minimum GPA requirement. Certain programs require higher GPAs and additional coursework. Their SAT scores, which are optional this year, they have not made a decision about next year. Their SAT scores are a little harder for our students to reach. When you look at Hawaii public students' average SAT scores, these are a little higher. So their SAT scores are a little higher and their GPA is a little lower, which I find interesting because most things that you'll read will tell you GPA is a better predictor of success. So, but those would be the numbers you would want to be hitting for guaranteed admission: a 560 in the evidence-based reading writing and a 530 in math and a 22 ACT composite. If you don't know what composite is, don't worry. We'll discuss ACT when we talk about admissions testing. And Kekaulike will be offering a free ACT for all juniors in the spring. So keep that in mind. All right, so now we'll go into the University of California school system. The requirements up a little bit. You have your 4 credits of English, 3 credits of math, same thing, geometry and algebra 2, 2 credits science, 2 credits social studies. Now you're starting to see a specific 2 credits world language requirement and a 1 credit visual performing arts credit. You're also 1 credit college prep, and that again can come from an additional math, an additional science, and additional social studies. No grades lower than a C, and they have a different GPA requirement for in-state and out-of-state. So for out-of-state students, they require a 3.4, and they have gone test optional. They have so much information around their test optional program. It is test optional fall 2022 for in-state students. Out of state, it says some conflicting stuff. I don't think they really have it set for fall 2022 yet. They're kind of saying test optional. Their plan is to create their own college admissions testing for the UC schools. They do recommend subject tests for certain majors. All right, now I put Harvard on there just so you can understand when we get into those really, really highly selective single digit acceptance rate schools, what we're looking at when they look at your transcript and GPA and test scores. So this comes directly from their website. This isn't me paraphrasing. They say that their ideal 4-year program includes 4 credits of English, and then that's extensive practice in writing. So they're going to kind of expect to see that you took our AP English language and our AP English literature, because we offer those. 4 years of math, 4 years of science. Now they're adding chemistry and physics, and they're saying an advanced course in one of these subjects. So again, we offer AP Bio, we offer AP Physics. They're going to just assume and expect that you've taken one, if not both of them. 3 years of history, 4 years of one world language. So they're saying in an ideal candidate would have taken 4 years. The average GPA at Harvard is a 4.04, average SAT is a 1515, and the average ACT is a 34. In addition, you need 2 SAT subject exams. So you can see where we start out with our state school, and then we go all the way to Harvard, one of the most selective universities in the nation. And you can see how all of a sudden what coursework you take really matters depending on how selective the school is. Here we have kind of factors in admissions decision. And this is what I really want you to think about when students are deciding on what courses they're going to take in senior year. The most important thing when you looked at college for first-time freshmen in fall 2016 were the grades in the college prep courses, not so much PE or health, but in your core classes, your English, your math, your science, your history, your world language. And then also, so then grades in all courses. And then the third thing is going to be that strength of curriculum. And we're going to be talking about that. That's really when we talk about course registration, we're talking about strength of curriculum, and the rigor. And I'll discuss that on the next slide. And then we have test scores. And I would say that given COVID, things have changed a lot around test scores. And as a result, those grades in your courses and the strength of your curriculum becomes even more important. Because if you take something away from an equation, the other things have more weight. So if you're pulling SAT scores out, your GPA then just naturally just becomes more important. Your essay becomes more important, your recommendations become more important. So that would be that. And then I really want to hear Matt's take on that slide, but I want to just get through a couple, and then there's only a couple more, and then I would love to hear what he has to say about that. So intensity of curriculum, when I said strength of curriculum, some people will say intensity, some people will say strength, some people will say rigor. So the expectation is that colleges want to see that it builds through your transcript, kind of like those little building blocks. So in 9th grade, maybe you didn't take any honors courses. Maybe you did take a couple in 9th grade. But in 10th grade, if you didn't take any and you were successful, they would expect you to take some. And then in 11th grade, if you were successful taking some honors courses, they would expect to see you taking an AP. And so that idea that you're building on your success and you're taking more challenging courses. So you should be taking the most rigorous courses that you can be successful in. And just know that when I submit all my documents to colleges, when I submit your transcript, I also submit a school report. And on that school report, it tells a little bit about our school and our makeup of student body. It says like our average SAT scores, our average ACT scores, and then it has a list of all our honors and AP courses so that we're not being compared to other students on the mainland, we're being compared to students at our school so that they're able to see what is available at their school and how challenging is their transcript given what the school provides.
All
All
right,
right.
I will go ahead and chime in. Of course,
Please.
uh, what we call this at University of Portland, everybody, is preparation for success. Preparation for success at the we look at the major that you're interested in pursuing and the classes that you chose to take in high school. So we look at English, mathematics, social studies and history, foreign language. We also look at programs in science. And if you can take 4 classes in each, we would love that. That would be 20 types of classes. So all of those, all 4 years. If you can't take those, that's understandable. It depends on every student's ability to take classes when they can take them. But we would encourage you to take more of what you can now so that you're ready to roll in college when it's time to start your first year. So preparation for success is what we call it. And that involves exactly what we just addressed right now, taking more than what's available so that you're ready when it's time to start your first year of college.
Thank you, Matt. So again, all the colleges will see what we have to offer. It is a balance though. So that's, students always ask me like, should I take this many AP courses? Should I take this? And it really is a balance. Like, what are you taking now and are you being successful? So we don't want you going from no AP courses to 4 because your friend's taking 4, but they were taking 2 in junior year and were really successful. So there's an expectation they'll grow and take 4. But if you didn't have any honors courses yet, you wouldn't just jump into 4 AP. So there's that whole idea of progression. And so we want you to take the most rigorous courses that you can be successful in. And again, please contact me. Friday, we're expecting that you will put in your course requests into Naviance. And so I am happy to talk about your course load, what you're taking now, and what I think is a good choice. Also based on what you want to do. I have students who want to go in the medical field, and human phys is a great option for that. We have courses that you don't necessarily, and AP Bio is a great course for that. You don't necessarily need AP Calculus because you want to do this. Everybody thinks AP Calculus, but AP Calculus isn't the best choice for a lot of different majors. If you want to go into a psychology degree, AP Statistics and AP Psych are your best choices. So there's a lot that goes into play, and it's not just about taking the most rigorous course. It's about taking the most rigorous course you can be successful. So that being said, I'm gonna acknowledge the chats really quick. So chemistry and anatomy, yes, they count both those this year. So human phys is a science credit. So that's great. Will the school be providing a free pre-ACT or normal ACT? We are not doing pre-ACT. Pre-ACT is for 9th and 10th graders. We offer it every year. A lot of schools do not. I'm a firm believer in giving every student every opportunity to practice. This year, due to social distancing guidelines, it's not feasible for us to test 9th, 10th, and 11th. So we just had a meeting about it yesterday, and we talked with leadership, and I said, look, we can't test 9th and 10th graders this year. I'm sorry. 10th graders got the opportunity to test last year in 9th. They'll have the opportunity next year in 11th. And these current 9th graders will get the opportunity next year in 10th and then again in 11th. So my focus is on juniors. So juniors need to have the opportunity for a free ACT. And so I'd rather test all juniors than worry about 9th and 10th graders taking a pre-ACT. So they can practice. There's so many options and opportunities to practice online, but there's not opportunities for free ACT. So that is what we will be doing. I'll be sending out a Google form, and you will be able to sign up for 223 or 323. So I'm going to have a couple different test dates per the state so that I can test juniors and make sure they're socially distanced and we meet all those COVID guidelines. So it looks like Matt answered the test optional. There's actually a slide later also about test admissions that we'll talk about. And again, it'll be great to hear Matt's take on that. And then we do go higher than a 4.0 on AP courses. So our AP courses are weighted on a 5.0 scale. It's pretty common actually. That's why colleges will ask for our weighted and unweighted for a student. So our weighted is when we weigh those AP courses. That's how many of our students graduate with a 4.12 or a 4.19, or, your valedictorian will normally have a 4.2. So that's how that happens. Both AP courses and our running start, which we have a really nice growing running start program, English 100, Social 100, a couple other courses we're adding this year. This year coming up next year. So those courses, when you take those, are on a 5.0 weighted scale. So you can apply to Harvard or anywhere else. English required. Yes, English is required for the 4th year. That is when I talk about graduation requirements, they are not Kekaulike requirements. They are Hawaii DOE. And every public school will require that for every student. And it's really good because just about every university, even the ones you saw that only say 2 social studies, 3 math, still say 4 years of English. English is critical to being successful in college. The ability to read and write is in every single course. So it's really important that kids are practicing writing. So it's required for us and it's required for them. So I'm going to move on to another PowerPoint because I got a bunch. So let me see what I got here for you. So, all right. Nope, I have that too. Okay, how to choose a college. We'll talk a little bit about fit. So I'm sure everyone has heard the term fit, and we're going to talk a little bit. So how to choose a college and not lose your mind. So best fit, what does that mean? So it's when a college meets a student's needs academically, socially, and financially. Good colleges will meet most, if not all, the students' preferences. I mean, nothing's perfect, but in general. So I like to think of it like a triangle. And so when I talk about fit, we're going to say academic, we're going to say social, and we're going to say financial. And then I believe that Hawaii Public's, we have a little bit extra pieces because for our students to go to the mainland, it requires getting on a plane. You can't just drive to another college. If you don't just do your local college, you can't drive to one 2 hours away or 3 hours away, or you don't have 40 or 50 options in a 4-hour radius. So we have to take some things into consideration, like for a break you have to get on a plane and that costs money, and then weather. But we'll get into that. I'm getting ahead of myself, of course. So I think of it as a triangle: academic, social, financial, and then we're going to break down those triangles as well. So when I say academic fit, and you've probably heard the term safety and reach and target. And Matt alluded to this when he mentioned test scores and checking school profiles to see if your test scores fall in the range. So there's a range, and schools will publish those ranges. They'll do freshman profiles for each year, and they'll do it 2 ways. They'll either say the mean, the average. They'll just say, oh, the average student has a 3.7, or the average student's SAT is a 1240, or the average ACT is a 24. Or they'll say the mid 50. And the mid 50 means if you took that class and you said, here's the 100% of that class, I'm going to look at the 25th percentile to the 75th percentile. You're going to take the mid 50 of that, and it's going to give you a range. And it's going to say, the mid 50 could be for GPA, it could be a 3.5 to a 3.8. And that means the 25th percentile had a 3.5, the 75th percentile had a 3.8, meaning 25% of the students, 1 in 4 had below and 1 in 4 had above. And so those numbers become really essential to understand when you're starting to make a list, because it's really important to have your list have safety, reach, and targets. So safety is when your academic credentials exceed. And safety is also a school that publishes what you need to get in, because some schools won't say, like Manoa says, if you have a 2.8 and you have a 560 in evidence-based reading writing and you have a 530 in math, you're in. And so there's no guessing. If you meet and exceed those academic credentials, you're in. And so it's a safety automatically. And so then there's target, and that's a match. So you fall right in there, whether it's the average, whether it's the mid 50, you fall in the middle, even more towards the 75%, that would be your target. And then reach is when your academic credentials are below. And I would also say that a reach school is a school that's highly selective and hardly accepts anyone. So when you talk about somewhere like Harvard, even if you have that 4.04 and even if you have that 34 ACT, technically that would mean it's a target. Your academic credentials match. But because they only accept 5% of the people who apply, it becomes a reach for everyone. So once a school only accepts like a single digit, 4%, 8%, 9%, your Ivies, a few other highly selective schools, they are reaches for everyone. If you're a valedictorian, those schools are still reaches. So Stanford, reach for everyone. So it's really important to understand those things. So that is the first piece about academic fit, is understanding about the academic credentials and safety, target, reach. Then there's a different kind of academic fit that sometimes students don't think about. They just think about whether they can get in, but it's also what kind of learner are you? Would you thrive in a small discussion? Would you like a large lecture? Um, do they offer your major? I can't tell you how oftentimes students are like, I want to study here. I want this major. And then we look at the school and they don't have that major. So it requires not just, where Auntie went or the school that you've always wanted to go to, but that it's a fit for you and that they offer the kind of programs that you're interested in. And tutoring, advising, most schools are going to offer academic resources, but it's also nice to kind of check in and see what is available. So that's academic fit. So like I said, the GPA and your test scores are your academic credentials. They will impact admissions. And then you want to choose a range of admissibility in mind. I like the target schools. I like a few safeties. I think reaches are great, but 2 reaches are more than enough for me. I oftentimes have students who just, their whole list wants to be reaches. And I'm like, oh, it's really important for me to say this. I'm even thinking I'm going to stop sharing for a second because it's so important to me to say this and look at you all when I'm saying this. There is 100 schools that are great for you. Like 100 schools out there. I promise. There are amazing schools and towns all over the US. And those reach schools, they're great. There's a reason they're reach schools. They're fabulous, but you will find an incredible college and incredible professors and life-changing moments and friendships that you will have your whole life at so many schools everywhere. And so, we really don't want to get hung up on those reach schools. Pick 1 or 2. That's great. That's great. But a safety doesn't mean like, oh, if I can't get in here, I'll go there. And you're like all sad. Like you should be as excited about your safety as you are about your reach school. Like you should love your safety as much as you love Harvard. You should be so excited about that school and be like, I'll be happy to go there if I can't get in. So I really, when you make your list, like be happy with those schools, like, fall in love with those schools. And, yeah, we'll talk more about that. But I just have to say that because students always make me these lists and I'm like, oh, oh, there's Yale, and there's Stanford, and there's USC, and there's a lot of schools in there, and all of their acceptance rates mean we're not very likely to get in anyone. It doesn't matter how amazing everyone is, it's just they only have so many spots. So we want to find out what's going to be the best school. Is it a small school where you'll get a lot of love and care, where if you're not in class, a professor is going to reach out to you? Are you just like, I want a big school with a football team, I want to go to games? Like, there's a lot of things to ask yourself, and I have a lot of questionnaires that you could do to kind of help you with that process. So I just have to say that. Matt, come on, help me out. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, really, to sum things up, this is a really important topic because you have safety schools that you can also translate into where can I go to college that is feasible.
Yes.
And when you look at feasible, you might think about things like, is it a quick flight over to Oahu and I'm going to go to UH? Am I able to get into that school? Will UH accept me? Do I have to do community college classes first and then go there? You have to figure this out. Would another safety school be that you're going to the mainland, but they meet your requirements that you have succeeded in achieving in the high school level right now? And would maybe a school that would not necessarily be a reach, but right in the middle, be like a school that where you meet all those requirements, but then they don't have like exorbitant test scores that are required, or maybe 4 years of math, but you're interested in going into theater. You have to look at all those things. And so do you know what? Let's go ahead and bring it back. Okay, I want to start over. You being students from Hawaii, looking at schools in Hawaii on the mainland, all of you have admissions counselors at colleges like me. Okay, I work at University of Portland. I help students get accepted to University of Portland. Every other college has the same thing. What I encourage you to do before you even start looking at safety, reach, sustainable, whatever it is that you're looking for, I want all of you to reach out to us. And you need to connect with your admissions counselors, figure out how you meet the requirements, how the school connects with your needs as a student, as a family, as a location. We're going to talk about all this in a bit because I have a big presentation for all of you. But my recommendation is look at the different things that you need in a college. How are you going to get into that college? And then what you're going to do is develop a relationship with that college. And you're going to do that by connecting with people like me, the admissions counselors, so that we can help you get admitted. And the great thing about Hawaii is that all of us are pretty consistent. So the same admissions people that read your applications travel to your to your high school. I've been visiting Kekaulike High School for 15 years. So not only do I know many students that you're friends with that have attended University of Portland, but I know people that you're friends with that have gone to University of Washington and UCLA and Stanford. I know students and your families that have sent students to these places. So really, to wrap things up, this is a family decision, but it's also about relationships. And so you need to connect with colleges.
I agree.
And talk with the counselors like me so that we can assist you in figuring out which school's the right fit or not. Okay.
That's awesome. And yeah. I mentioned that in a COVID slide. All right, I'm going to get back to my slides. Thanks, Matt. All right, so a couple more fit, and then we'll talk a little bit about COVID. What's going on? Oh, I'm going to do this. Too much things open. Got to go all over. Okay, so, oh no, stop. Sorry. Sorry about that. All right. So academic fit, course offerings, the institution has to have the major you're considering. Some students are really interested. You want to see if they have an honors residential program, class size. Um, Large lecture halls, small classrooms aren't as easy as just saying like it's a small school or it's a large school. You can find a large university with intimate learning communities. Do you want to do research? There's a lot of things that big universities offer and small schools offer. So just these are things to ask about: academic resources, extra tutoring, advising. Um, Late study sessions, how late is the library open? For students who require accommodation, it's really important to research the resources colleges have to offer and even reach out. And I would say that if you currently have an IEP or a 504 and you get services, you definitely want to contact me so that we can figure out the best place for you. Because some schools are incredible and some schools are good. And so we want to find incredible, like what school is really going to meet your needs and offer you the services you need. So that's an important thing to come see me about. Social fit. This is a little bit more important for our students than just other people. So, and I'd say location and student body are the big ones for me. So geographical location really comes into play for Hawaii students. So I can't tell you how many students tell me they can't wait for snow. And then I can't tell you how many students come visit me during winter break and are like, it's freezing. Like they get over the cold, icy, slushy, dirty snow kind of quick. And so you want to really understand when you commit to winter, you commit to winter depending on where you are at. And you want to understand, is it going to be like a harsh, Midwest winter in Wisconsin? Is it going to be a mild winter in California? What is it going to be, a gray winter in the Northwest? And you have to think about those things. Seasonal affective disorder, SAD, it's a real thing. And for some people who've grown up around the sun, it sounds silly, but it actually really matters. And I like students to think about that. And then what kind of campus for every student who really wants to be in the city because they've lived in a rural lifestyle their whole life and they really want to experience the city lifestyle. I have a lot of students who love the rural and they want to keep their rural roots. So those are things we really have to talk about. And then student body diversity is really important for our students. So I have a lot of students who say, I looked at all the brochures and I saw people who look like me. And then I got to the school and everybody was white. And, these are important things. I don't want to not talk about these things. I want students to say, hey, like, what does it look like? Are there Native Hawaiian people there? Are there, whatever people are, like, what's going on? What is the composition of diversity at the school? And that could be racial and ethnic, but that could be economic as well. So those are important things for students. And I hear those from students who come back and visit and talk to me about those things. So I know they're important. Interests, if you're really involved in certain things on our campus or in your community, we want to make sure that there's something along those lines that can meet those needs at your college. So kind of just mentioned all of those. If it's important to you and interest, we want to find it. Sometimes it looks a lot more diverse in those publications. So we want to look up those stats. And then when we talk about geography and weather and the campus, we also talk, about travel costs. Travel costs are kind of built into the cost of attendance. Every school is required to put their total cost of attendance on their website. And usually they will have travel costs built in, but they're not necessarily taking into account Hawaii and what it costs to fly from the mainland to Hawaii during winter break or spring break. And so it's a lot more money than it is to fly, just a couple states over. So that's something we really need to talk about. There's long weekends like Thanksgiving where most students are going to go home, but maybe you can't afford to come home for just a 4-day weekend. And it's not logistically making sense because, if you're on the East Coast, it's going to take you more than a day just to get home and more than a day to get back. So a 4-day weekend really just isn't logistically making sense. So these are just things we have to think about, especially as students look at the East Coast, which more and more students are doing. And it can be a great fit for a student, but it also can be, overwhelming for a student. So financial fit, this is kind of a big deal. And this is one of those things where unfortunately we sometimes don't talk about it because people don't like to talk about money. And I find that the more honest conversations that families can have with their child about what they can really afford to pay, the less heartbreak that we have later. So I've had every year, I have a handful of students who work so hard to get into their school of dreams, and they get in, and then here we are, we're getting close to that May 1st deadline when it's time to commit. And, it's just really not feasible. There wasn't much financial aid. It's $60,000 to go there, and they didn't get any grant money because they make a little too much for need-based aid, but not enough to pay 60 grand. And, it goes on and on. And so I really, really think it's important um, to have those conversations up front. Like, here is really realistically what we can afford to pay. And then from there, your child will incur some costs. The Pell Grant is, that's a need-based aid, but then there's student loans students can take. They can take up to $5,500, 5,500 in freshman and sophomore year. So, those kinds of things we could talk about. But I like students to make sure they have some WUI schools on their list because they are more affordable. I also like students to not shy away from private schools. I find that private schools tend to give more money. So a state school, especially an out-of-state state school, doesn't offer a lot to out-of-state students. And so it might cost less than a private school, but I find that private schools tend to give a bigger financial aid package. So sometimes I have students going to private schools and they're paying less. And then we have schools that meet all needs. So there's a whole, I could talk on like just about that piece. So just know that what I really want you to know is that it's really important to talk with your children and students, with your parents, about really what does your family financial picture look like for college, so that we can craft some schools that are more affordable for you. So I like, when I talk about like that whole safety reach target, I like the financial piece to also have that idea. Here's a school that's really affordable that I can get into. So I like the financial aid piece to be built in to what you should get. So financial fit. So true cost of attendance can be very deceiving. All schools will have the net price calculators and their cost of attendance, so you can have an idea what you would qualify. And so this is the kind of piece that I was really trying to say to everyone. So when students are starting to build their college list, parents and students should talk about what the family can realistically afford. This is the time families should learn more about the FAFSA and the expected family contribution. While many colleges will try to meet the full need of students, most families will still need to pay some of the cost out of pocket. So, I mean, a lot of times parents are like, my student has all A's and I thought they were going to get all this money, and they do get a lot of money, but they're still getting something. It's kind of like if you bought a car, like you have to pay money. Like you have to have an expectation that there's going to be an out of cost for parents, and that the student will have to take loans, and then you're going to hope that the number is just what you want that number to be, is realistic for you. um and at some point when I stop screen sharing, I'll tell you that, like, now I'm a parent. So my daughter graduated last year, so now I'm paying for college. So I really understand how overwhelming that process is, and what it's like to go through the admissions process and the financial aid and the paying. And it is overwhelming, but there are a lot of options, and there's a lot of affordability options out there that we can discuss. So when we talk about financial aid, also there's merit, which is academic. So that's really GPA and test score based. My kids a 4.0 and they got this high test scores, they qualify for merit. So, and it doesn't have to be that high either. It can be they have a 3.7 and they have this score. And, schools do varying levels of merit scholarships. Need-based are going to be grants, and a Pell Grant would be the first thing people think about. When you fill out the FAFSA, it will activate the Pell Grant if you qualify for it. And so the Pell Grant's like $6,200 for free if you qualify. And it's not like you qualify for 62 or nothing. Some students qualify for the full Pell Grant, some qualify for partial, some qualify for $4,000, some qualify for $2,000. When you qualify for a Pell Grant, you oftentimes will also qualify for some institutional need-based, some state opportunity grants, all kinds of different need-based aid. And then of course there's scholarships, and then there's scholarships that are merit, and then there's scholarships that are need-based. So there's all kinds of different levels of scholarships and grants. Grants and scholarships do not need to be paid back. So only loans need to be paid back. Sports and arts, there's specific scholarships also for sports and arts. College admissions, rapidly changing landscape. Every year they make changes, more students apply, and the process is overwhelming and complicated. But there's good news. So just don't worry. The average acceptance rate to college is 66%, which is 2 out of 3 students. So colleges want students and they need them to increase their enrollment. We don't need these essay myths. We'll talk about those another day. There's so many things to talk about. And I also want Matt to have an opportunity to share his presentation. This is a slideshow I'll share with you that I made about all the colleges that come visit us. And then there's some COVID things that I also want to talk about with you guys. So, but I'm going to stop for a moment because I'm talking a lot. And it's all really important information. And so I want you to have it. But I also want to just take a deep breath and see if there's any questions in the chat, see how Matt wants to chime in. And yeah, so.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do before I start talking to everybody about the college admission process is I want to talk about 3 major things that have changed this year based on COVID-19 and the University of Portland. So everybody, sort of the elephant in the room is what's going on? What do we do with tests? What do we do with the fact that we were sent home and I only have credit, non-credit for my classes, but I don't have actual grades? What if my family is no longer operating their business and they are struggling financially and there's no economic stimulus to foot the bill and there's a lot of stress on the family? And what about my mental health? And so those are 3 really big things that I want to address right now about COVID as it relates to how we're addressing it at University of Portland. Then what I want to do is shift gears to a general sense and talk about, I want to wrap everything up and talk about the college admission process so that you can write down notes and create a grid. I call this the grid system. So get ready for the grid system, everybody, because we're going to talk about this today. So the main 3 things that I want to discuss as far as COVID before we move into wrapping things up for the grid system and college admissions are test scores, credit, no credit, and then mental health and family, business, and economic issues, okay? First off, we're going to talk about test scores for COVID. Most colleges right now have shifted between requiring test scores and not requiring test scores. Some colleges may be different, some colleges might not be, and so it is up to the family and you as a student to figure out what is required at every single college that you're applying to. But what I can tell you is for most colleges across the board, for like over 4,000 colleges, most of us have gone test optional. What test optional means is that you have two choices when you apply. It means that you can opt in and submit test scores because you have SAT or ACTs, and you can choose to opt out because you don't have SAT or ACTs, or maybe you do have SAT or ACTs and you don't like your scores. You have a choice now to decide, do I want to turn them in or do I not want to turn them in? If the answer is yes, you like your scores, turn them in. That means you're going to opt in. If you choose that you don't love your scores or you did not have an opportunity to take the SAT or ACT, then you're going to opt out. The suggestion that I have for families and students right now is that you research the colleges that you're applying to and you figure out what are the average test scores. If a certain college requires 1,200 on the SAT or a 26 composite score on the ACT, figure out if you have those scores. And if you do, maybe you choose to opt in. If you don't, maybe you choose to opt out. All colleges right now are creating systems for admissions for students that opt in and for students that opt out, which means that we're going to look, if you opt out, we're going to look at your AP coursework, or whether you did 4 years of math, or whether you did 4 years of science, even if it wasn't required. There's another rubric that schools use now if you opt out. But if you love your test scores, you should opt in. If you don't love your test scores or you didn't have a chance to take them, you should opt out. But you do have a choice. And that is one of the major things that we're dealing with right now because of COVID-19. Second, many families are concerned about the fact that they really only have the option of credit, no credit during high school because we were all basically sent home because of COVID and we had stay-at-home orders. So what that means is that you couldn't go to class and you couldn't be evaluated for a grade in your chemistry class or your English class or your social science or social studies history class, which means that on your transcript, you received a credit or you received a no credit, okay? A no grade, but then there was sort of an explanation for that. We are honoring at University of Portland, for example, and many other schools the same. If you have credit, then you're going to get credit for that class, and it's not going to affect your GPA, but it means that you successfully completed your class. So that's going to count for your graduation and for your admission to college, okay? So that's really important stuff. We honor credit, no credit. We honor test score opt-in or test score opt-out for the tests. And then next, mental health, finances, family business. What do all those things mean? Mental health is a big deal. Being sent home on stay-at-home orders is hard. Receiving credit, no credit for classes is hard. Not connecting with your friends or your family is hard. We encourage every single student that's going through issues that revolve around stay-at-home orders, finances, credit, no credit, classes, everything that relates to life in high school, to write about this in your application. You can do this in your essay. You can do this on the small answer writing sections on your application. And you can email your college counselor like me. If you're applying to University of Portland, you can email me and say, these are the things that I'm dealing with. This is what I need help with. And you can let us know, and we can incorporate this into your application, and we can forward this information to all of the people that are reading your application, including people in the financial aid office. So really important stuff, okay? Test scores, credit, no credit for high school and grades, and financial sustainability and mental health and wellness. Those are things that we're really looking at, and we're accommodating everybody based on their individual needs. Now, since we talked about COVID, what I want to do is I want to take a step back and wrap everything up that we talked about today. I want everybody, even though you're not going to have your microphones live right now, I know that we've got parents in the room, you've got kids running around, you've got students that are doing homework, you've got all different things going on in the kitchen. I want everybody that is tuned in right now to repeat after me. And I want you to repeat after me and say these things. Which college or university, all right, which college or university is the best fit for me? Which college or university is the best fit for me? So I've got parents here, I've got students here. You're all going to have this tabled conversation at home about which place is the best fit. Is it UH Manoa? Is it UH Hilo? Is it MCC? Is it KCC? Is it University of Portland? Is it Portland State? Is it Western Oregon? Is it Southern Oregon? Is it University of Washington? There are over 4,000 colleges that you can apply to and try to figure out where is the best fit that I'm going to go to. My response to the question, which college or university is the best fit for me, is the grid system. The grid system is something that I have come up with for over 15 years, and I believe that it really helps families successfully prepare for the college admission process and where you're ultimately going to send your sons and daughters to college. The grid system involves this. You're going to look at colleges based on 5 attributes, 5 things, 5 really important things: location, size, the degree programs that are available, so majors. You're going to look at campus experience, and you're going to look at cost. Let's talk about all these things, and then I'll explain the grid system. Location. Are you leaving Hawaii? Are you leaving Maui? All right. Maui County. Do you know what Maui County means? It means rural. All right. It does not mean Honolulu. It does not mean that you live in the big city. A lot of people on the mainland think Hawaii is Honolulu. That is not true. Maui County means more rural. Okay. So when you look at the mainland, you need to look at, are you in a big city? How far away is the airport? When you get there, what is your transportation going to look like? Do you have public transportation? Do you have to drive? Do you need a car? When you get to the campus, what is there to do around the campus? What are your activities and social aspirations? So you have to look at all those things if you're leaving Hawaii and going to the mainland, but you also have to look at those things if you're staying in Hawaii and go to Honolulu. How are you going to get around? What are the things that you're going to do? Location, okay? How far or close to home is the college going to be? And what is that going to mean for you as a lifestyle, okay? Location. Next, size. We talked about this earlier, but this is a big deal. Do you want small classes? Do you want big classes? Do you want your professors when you're in class to know your name? Do you want to go to a school where you can form study groups and connect in organizations and different clubs and intramurals and have a residence hall? And all of these things are important as it relates to size. Size, another way of explaining it can be, do you want people to know you on campus by your first name? Or are you more of an independent type of student where maybe that's not so much of an issue and you want to go to 1,000 people sports games and live in a big city and do your own thing? That's okay if you want to do that. That depends on your personality. So you've got schools that are small, you've got schools that are large, and you've got schools that are in between. What does the size mean for your learning abilities and who you want to be in college? Okay, location and size. Next, we talked about this earlier because Ms. Gormer touched on it perfectly. Degree programs. Does the college that you're interested in attending offer a degree that you want to study? If you're interested in engineering, I encourage you to apply to colleges that only offer engineering programs that you're interested in. Do you know that in Oregon, there are colleges that are large, so a couple state schools, that don't offer engineering? So we have schools that don't offer engineering, and we have students go to those schools every year, and they're engineering students, and they're like, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do? It's the end of my first year, my freshman year, and I want engineering, but they don't have it. What do I do? Well, do you know what you have to do? You have to transfer. So the thing with transferring is I am 100% on board with transferring. If that's your plan, going to a college for 2 years, transferring to another college later, awesome. If you go to a school and you have to transfer later because they don't have your major, guess what that means? It means that you did not research the school that you were interested in going to initially. And you know what that also means? It means loss of money. It means that you are going to take longer to graduate than 4 years. It means that you're going to repeat a lot of the same classes that you chose to take because you have to transfer to a school. You need to research right now what degrees are available at the colleges that you're applying to so that you only apply to schools that have majors that you're interested in, okay? So please make sure that schools offer degree programs that you're applying to. I'll give you an example. If you're interested in pre-medicine, apply to colleges that have great biology programs. If you're interested in civil engineering, apply to schools that have engineering programs. If you're interested in nursing, apply to schools that offer nursing programs. But then, as a side note, I want to offer up another piece of advice. Figure out how long it takes to graduate from those schools. What are the degree requirements at those schools? Do you have to take general coursework plus your major? So what are the courses going to be like over a 4-year period of time before you graduate? Do you have opportunities to do internships, work experience? What are the opportunities that you have available to you based on the majors that you're interested in? How long does it take you to graduate? If you apply, can you get accepted as a first-year student in that degree? Another way of putting that is, are the degrees that you're interested in direct entry? Direct entry is a big deal. If you're applying to a college, does that mean that you can get admitted to the major when you apply and start your first year? Those are questions that you need to ask right now as juniors so that when you apply, you're ready to roll and know exactly how long it takes you to graduate, how you can get into your major, what your major is going to look like, what your classes are going to be like all 4 years, and how you're going to get internship experience. All right, see how this all ties together? Degree programs, all right? So you're going to look at location, you're going to look at size, and you're going to look at degree programs. The next part of the college search process is campus experience. And we talked about this, but what I want to do is put it together. Campus experience is, what is it going to be like for you if you go to college and you leave home and you're going to live there? Okay, UH Manoa, University of Washington, University of Portland, all the different places on the mainland. If you leave home, you're going to study at a college, but you're also going to live there. So you're going to look at culture, where the students are coming from. You're going to look at transportation. You're going to look at clubs. You're going to look at intramurals. You're going to look at who you are as a person and how you fit in. What does all this mean for you? Who do you want to be? What does the college provide as far as access to who you want to be? This is up to you and parents to decide, where are we going to send my sons and daughters? If you're a student, where do you want to be? How is this going to help you succeed to be the best person that you want to be with the degree that you choose? Okay, campus experience. You're not going to go to college just to study. You're going to go to college if you leave home also to get a life experience. This is also part of your real world experience. Who are you going to be? Okay. This is part of campus experience. And last but not least, category number 5. Okay. Category number 1 is location. Category number 2 is size. Category number 3 is degree programs. Category number 4 is campus experience and lifestyle. And category number 5 is cost. Affordability. I want to touch on affordability in 3 realms, 3 steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay, this is to sum everything up that you've heard tonight. Step 1 is when you apply to colleges, you're going to be considered most likely, even if it's a state school in the mainland or a private school, you're going to be considered for a merit-based scholarship. Merit-based scholarships are based on the performance that you make at King Kekaulike High School, okay? What that means is that your GPA matters. It means that if you're taking AP classes, it matters. It means that if you have a good GPA, it matters. GPA, college or high school performance, classes taken, all of the work that you're putting in right now in high school matters for scholarships in college. High school performance means merit-based scholarships, okay? That's step 1. Step 2 in the financial aid process is to fill out the FAFSA. FAFSA allows you to be considered not only for college grants and scholarships and more financial aid, but it allows you to be considered for scholarships and financial aid from the government, from the US government, loans that have lower interest rates and Pell Grants and different things that are required for you to pay for college that you don't have to pay back. All right, this is financial aid that will go into your college that will help you with affordability that you don't have to pay back. And the only way to be considered for these things is to fill out the FAFSA. That's step 2. Step 3 is that all of you right now can start looking at resources online to look at outside scholarships. Like maybe if you're interested in being a chemistry major, or maybe you want to be a theater major or a Spanish major, maybe you're going to start looking at resources in Hawaii that can connect you with different scholarships for those degrees that you want to study, and you can apply for those. And maybe you can't apply for them right now because you're not graduating from high school, but you can research them so that you can get ready to apply for them next year. I'm going to give you an example of an outside scholarship that ties into FAFSA, the overall governmental scholarship process that you have to apply for to be considered for college scholarships. If you're interested in music or theater, okay, so you want to be an actor, you want to be a musician, there are outside scholarships that you can apply to, but you also have to go through step 2 and fill out the FAFSA at University of Portland. Let's say you want to go into acting or theater. We are not going to consider you for theater scholarships unless you fill out the FAFSA. And that is really important for all of you to know, because you may be an amazing candidate for acting and theater, but if you don't fill out the FAFSA, then you are not eligible for any scholarships. So I really want to emphasize that step 2 in the financial aid process is to fill out the FAFSA. So let's recap. Step 1 is to apply to the schools that you're interested in, and we will consider you for merit-based scholarships. Step 2 is to fill out the FAFSA to be considered for everything else. And step 3 is along the way, you need to apply for as many outside scholarships as possible. And if you are successful in receiving outside scholarships, those are going to stack. They add on to everything else that you've already received so that you know the full picture of what you're interested in studying, the schools that you're considering, and how much it's going to cost. When you have all this information, you will know which college is the best fit for you, students, and for your family, right? Family, this is a big deal. So remember, we're going to recap and then I'm going to stop because I've talked a lot already. Location. How far or close to home do you want to be? Where is the college? How far away is the airport? How much does it cost to get there? What is the travel experience like? Will your parents be able to visit? Do you have family in the area? Are there students from Hawaii on that college campus? Location. Size. How big is the school? How small is the school? What is the place going to be like for you and your learning abilities? Do you want to get to know your professors? Do you want to ask questions in class? All of those things are important. Majors or degree programs, can you study what you're interested in at the schools that you're applying to? If a school doesn't offer engineering and you're interested in engineering, please do me a favor. Only apply to schools that offer engineering programs that you're interested in. If you're interested in science or nursing or biology or music or theology and you want to study religion, only apply to colleges that offer degree programs that you're interested in. That's degree programs. Next, campus experience. What is the place like? Residence halls, clubs, intramurals, activities. What is the cultural experience like? What is the weather like? Maybe you're a person that likes the snow. Can you go snowshoeing? Can you go mountain climbing? Can you go to the Oregon coast or the beach or different places on the mainland that you're interested in? What do those things look like for you? And then last but not least, you have to be able to pay for it. This is a big issue for families. How much is it going to cost? To wrap things up today, everybody, the only way that you can figure out how much a school costs is for you to figure out which colleges are the right fit for you. Then you have to apply and get accepted, because the only way to figure out cost is if you're accepted. And then you're going to fill out the FAFSA and you're going to go through the financial aid process. And when you figure out what that cost is, you're going to be able to narrow down your choices and say, this is the best fit for me. This is where I want to go. So remember earlier when I told you about the grid system, because you're like, what's the grid system? What is he talking about? This is the grid system, okay? This is why I did not have PowerPoint slides today, everybody, because I want you to write this down right now. The grid system includes this, okay? You're going to write on the top of a piece of paper, okay, a blank white sheet piece of paper, and you're going to write across the top which college or university is the best fit for me, okay? You're going to write that right there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to create columns and rows. You're going to create a grid, okay? Columns and rows, okay? You can also do it in Excel, but I like to do it on paper because it makes it more real, okay? When you get your sheet of paper out and you write which college or university is the best fit for me, on the left side, you're going to create columns, or you're going to create rows that say University of Washington, University of Portland, University of Hawaii Manoa, Hawaii Pacific. You're going to look at all the schools and you're going to put all those schools down the left side of your white sheet of paper. Then you're going to create your rows and columns, and on the right side you're going to go across the top and you're going to write location, size, degree programs, campus experience, and cost. Okay, five columns and rows. A grid. As you research your schools, you're going to make check marks or cross marks, okay, an X. Does the school meet my needs for location? Check. Does the school meet my needs for size? Check. Does the school meet my needs for degree programs? Check. Does the school meet my needs for campus experience? Do they have residents? Let me throw this in there real quick for parents, okay? let me tell you from a parent perspective. Okay, I'm not a parent, but I've worked with kids for 15 years. Let me tell you, okay, let's pretend that I'm a parent. If I was a parent from Hawaii and I was looking at campus experience on the mainland for my kids, I would not let my kids go to a college that didn't offer residence halls, right? If you are looking for a college and you want to make sure your kids are taken care of, that's something that you have to consider. For me, I would not consider schools that didn't offer residence halls. However, many of you might be super modern. You're like, my kids can find their own apartments, stuff like that. I know that for the vast majority of you, you want to make sure that your kids live on campus in residence halls. And so that's a really important part of the college admission process. You have to look at those things, campus experience. And then last but not least, you're going to go through financial aid. You're going to consider scholarships. You're going to consider FAFSA. You're going to apply for outside scholarships. This is the grid, everybody. Colleges down the left side, all the different categories, location, size, degree programs, campus experience, and cost. You're going to do those across the top, and you're going to make check marks. When you have 5 check marks, you have a good fit school. If you only have if you only have 4 check marks, but you don't have 5, it's not the right fit. You have to have 5. So what happens is you're going to apply, you're going to go through this process, you're going to get your financial aid, and you are ultimately going to be able to create your 5 check marks at the schools that are the best fit. This is the grid system. I hope that everybody was able to take notes. I hope that my presentation was informative. I'm sorry that I didn't have slides, but you know what? Whatever. You can just, you know what? It's fine. You can write notes down, do your grid, and you're good. And I encourage you to connect with your school. Connect with me afterwards if you have questions about University of Portland, the college admission process. And I want to wish everybody the best of luck in their junior year, especially during our pandemic, and know that we are addressing credit, no credit. We're addressing test scores, and we're also addressing issues with mental health and crises and things that people are going through, including business and money and everything. And every single school, including where I work, we are receptive to this, and we want to honor the place that you're in. And I want to thank you all for being here today. Thank you so much. I want to wish you the best of luck in your college search process.
Aw, thanks so much, Matt. I really appreciate it. It's great.
Okay.
I love your grid system. I like that you need the 5. I do have a few more slides like that are COVID specific. I think you touched on the admissions testing really well. I'm gonna pull them up and let's see what we got. They're
And
only
then just to chime in, if you want me to add information, let me know, but otherwise I'll stay silent.
okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think it's only 3 slides. So afterwards we'll kind of wrap it up, but we'll take questions from everyone. So here we go. So COVID considerations now more than ever, it's online in-depth research. What's interesting about this is that we have always living here in Hawaii been at a disadvantage compared to everyone else. COVID's actually even the playing field for us. We have always had to do in-depth research. It's not feasible that, oh, let's look at a college. Let's go fly and look at it. We don't have that ability to jump in a car and do a weekend road trip and go see 8 schools on a weekend. We can't, not every family can go fall break or spring break, but other families can just do it in a weekend. They just get in their car. And so we've always had to do a lot of research online, always. And due to COVID, it's amazing how they responded to the pandemic by making there's more services now remotely than ever. like there's online tours, you can go into dorms, you can do these information sessions, there's live group chats, you can do one-on-one messaging with admissions officers. It's really amazing. These were not available before, and we actually have more availability for us in Hawaii than we ever had online to do in-depth research. So, former KKHS students, I have been helping seniors and doing college career counseling with students since I've been here since 2007, but I've been focusing on seniors since 2012. Um, if there's a college you're interested in, I almost usually will know a student who's attending there, and I can connect you with them and they can let you know, like, what was it like? What was freshman year like? I really like to let students and families know that freshman year is difficult. Even in the best of times without a pandemic, students get lonely. Like every single student gets lonely in freshman year. And so I think it's important um to have that understanding going into things. Like, I'm going to be lonely, and if I'm a flight away, I'm used to ohana, I'm used to a really close knit family, I'm used to all of these things that an island lifestyle provides that will be a little bit different. And so I just like students to kind of know that going into, and when you talk with former KKHS students, they can let you know, oh, this was difficult, or wow, they have this amazing Hawaiian club and we do a luau and we do this and we do that. And here's where you can get a musubi. All these little things that you don't think about and take for granted that you miss. Oh, there's a Hawaiian food truck here in this town. So there are things. So that's why I really like to get some alumni perspective. College newspapers, blogs are really great. I've shared a couple really good blogs with families, so I'll send out a new list actually soon. Um, if you're interested in a school, follow them on social media, or follow, like, if oh, I'm interested in this. My daughter, when she was really interested in a college called Davidson, they had like this pet pet Instagram or something. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, she started following. She fell in love with it. She's like, "Oh, look at this. Oh, look at that." And it was a way for her to connect with the university, the college, before she even got there. And it was a big deal to her. And so those things can happen. You can make these relationships through social media. Um, the internet really allows you to step on campus when you're not able to, and for us, that's more important. For us, it's always been important. COVID is not the reason that's important for us. That's always been important because we don't have the resources usually to go to all the colleges that we're interested in. So we're always, almost always, as Hawaii students, looking at colleges online. And so now, due to COVID, there are greater resources than there have ever been. So take advantage of those amazing online tours. They're incredible. So please do those. Naviance, we purchased Naviance. It's great. It's a outstanding tool for students. Students are doing a lot of assessments, interest inventories, and such. They're doing it as part of their personal transition plan, their PTP. And from there, from their likes and interests, they can link those to possible majors and careers. And from that, they can link it to possible colleges. So it's this really all-in-one software that does these amazing college career research. And so I really want to have students take advantage of it. And again, there's so much we could talk about. I could just talk about Naviance for an hour. So know that students have the opportunity to use Naviance. It's available. We'll talk more about it. Contact me. We can have family meetings. We can have student meetings. College Board Big Future. Before there was Naviance, I was all about College Board Big Future. One of the things I really like about them is their estimated family contribution calculator. And I'm going to talk about that at the very end. Financial aid, I'm going to touch on. Matt did a great job really pushing FAFSA. I can't say enough, like FAFSA, FAFSA, FAFSA. Everything starts and ends with FAFSA. Without the FAFSA, you can't get any financial aid from colleges. So that is going to be critical. And you're going to hear me talking a lot about it in the spring and even more in the fall. I'm just going to be harassing you about it. So, but I will mention estimated family contribution at the very end, just so you understand that even though you can't apply yet, you can get an understanding based on your taxes of what the government and colleges are going to see for your estimated family contribution. And we call that EFC. I'll mention that in a minute. I'm just going to get through COVID considerations and then I'll come back to the EFC. All right. So the biggest COVID consideration, I think, on the board, and Matt really touched on it a ton, is emissions testing. So 1,500 schools have waived standardized testing because of coronavirus. Some of that, though, it's really important to understand that many of those schools were temporarily. They said it was for fall 2021. And then some permanently. And then I would say that a majority of them fall in the middle. So some were saying, we're only saying it's for 2021. And some were saying, we're saying this is for good. And then most of them only are telling you about 2021 and we don't know yet about 2022. So it may be optional, but it can still be important. So it's really critical that you don't be like, oh, testing's not important, or, it's waived. You really need to make sure you understand the schools you're looking at, what their standardized test policy is. And my big take is, you're going to have a free ACT at KKHS in the spring. Take it and study for it, because I have students who are like, I can't even tell you how many students in the senior year, when it's time to apply, they're like, oh, miss, I didn't really try much. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I know. And so, a big majority of our students, it's like another test or taking at school. It's a bunch of hours, it's free, and there's not as much buy-in as when they register and they have to pay for it and they have to come sit on a Saturday and take an SAT. And so I would argue that it's critical that you have buy-in, students. It's critical that parents are like harassing their kids gently and lovingly. Hey, are you going to take the ACT? Take it and study for it. Like, study for it. Treat it like it's a college admissions exam, because it is. And it's your chance to have a free test and to do well and to get scholarships based on it. So there's a lot of schools like University of Portland that are waiving it, and we're so grateful and lucky. They're also no longer, when I last talked with them, insisting upon it for scholarships, but there are some schools who are waiving it for admissions, but you still need test scores for their merit scholarship. So, it's a complicated puzzle. It's not as simple as, oh, they don't need it. It's test optional, which means you can submit, you don't have to. So, oh, you need it for scholarships. So, you could take it and then decide what you want to do it. You don't do well, you don't have to submit it. You do really well, you can submit it and it can help you. So my take is, take it, it can only help you. SAT, March, May, and June. In a normal year prior to pandemic, you would normally take it in the spring, juniors, and then you would spend the summer studying, using those scores, linking them to Khan Academy for free personalized test prep. And then you would take it one more time in the fall before you apply. So that's super important. Oh, one other thing. Oh my God, I didn't mention this. Like the most important thing. Yep, I'm going to stop screen sharing for a second. Again, I love the talking with you directly for a moment. So I did talk about the importance of GPA, but one of the things I didn't say that is critical for you to understand is that when you are applying to college, your GPA is set, which means that your 11th grade scores are the last grades and scores that you will have. So your 11th grade, some students are like, oh, 12th grade, oh, I'm taking these classes and AP and it'll help my GPA. No, 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 no. Your GPA is going to consist of 9th, 10th, and 11th. And each grade will be worth 33% of your GPA, 33.3, 3333. So Ninth grade is a third of your grade, 10th grade is a third of your grade, 11th, a third of your grade. GPA will be calculated at the end of junior year. And when you start applying in the fall of your senior year, you will be applying with a GPA that is set after junior year. So your junior year grades are critical to your options available to you. So taking this year super serious, I understand it's a pandemic. It's like nothing we've ever seen. They're uncharted waters. We, Matt mentioned the no pass. We didn't do that, luckily. So students did get grades for their classes last semester, sophomore year for you, and you are getting grades this year. We're not doing the pass, the no pass. You will have a GPA. So it's really, really critical that you have stuff due at the end of this semester. You give it your all, and you give it your all throughout junior year. And so, yes, what you take next year is very important because you will report your courses that you're taking. But I really want you to know how important your grades are this year. Okay, I'm getting off my soapbox. I'm going back to sharing. Ah, I have too many windows open in this. Move away, I can't see. Where did it go? Oh no, my last thing was about extracurriculars. Ugh, I have too many windows open, I apologize. Here, I'm just gonna do this. Oh, I see what's going on here. Hold on, I'm so sorry. I have a lot of windows open. I'm gonna do this. I don't want that account. I'm sorry. I opened the wrong window when I decided to share with you guys. Where did it go? Where did it go? Come back, PowerPoint. That's not what I want. Oh, here it is. I apologize. Um, I went off a little soapbox around grades, but that is an important piece that I want to make sure juniors understand is that these grades are the most important. These are the final grades that colleges will see when you start applying. So that being said, and because you're limited in extracurriculars and they might not be taking test scores, your grades are going to have even more weight. So I just want to make sure I say that. So the last COVID consideration I want to mention is extracurriculars. So I understand that your sophomore year got cut short. If you were in drama, our big spring musical didn't happen. That was super sad. Some sports got cut short early. Some sports weren't a go this year. There's a lot of things that you might have poured your heart and soul into, and now you can't do that. And so, you're struggling around that. So, you can find alternatives. And how are you spending your time during the pandemic? Think about that and be kind of paying attention. So there's a new optional question on the Common App. When you apply, the Common App has like over 900 schools you apply to, and you do your essay. They have a bunch of essay prompts, and we'll talk a lot more about that in the spring. But they have a new optional question on how the pandemic's majorly impacted your life. So that's something to think about. Virtual volunteering, I know students who are tutoring. I know students who are live volunteering, with the Maui Food Bank, with doing all kinds of different things that are available. Learn something new. It could be something as simple as like, I know students who are teaching themselves new songs through YouTube on the ukulele. Like, it could be anything really. There's online classes. And what I mostly want to say is, because I know so many students are really concerned around their extracurriculars and their lack of resume, and the pandemic is really above all else. Like, your mental health and your personal health and well-being is more important than everything. So don't worry. It's going to be okay. There's going to be a bunch of great schools for you. I'm not worried. I don't want you to be worried. Don't worry if you thought, you were going to have the lead in the play and now there's no play, and you thought that this was going to be your year for sports and you're going to be on the starting team on varsity and now there's no sport this year. And it's all going to work out. We're all really in this together, the whole nation, really. I mean, the whole world. Everyone's experiencing this together. The colleges understand this. And so there's a lot of great recommendations about what you can do despite it. whether that's testing, whether that's college search, financial aid, all those things. But that's probably the biggest piece I'd want you to take home, which is just, breathe and know that everybody's going through this, and it's going to be, your class will look different applying to colleges, and all the colleges are going to realize that. And so it's okay. And I have the financial aid thing that I still want to share before I say goodbye. But first, I'd love to know if there's any questions. You can unmute yourself and ask a question. You can put it in the chat. Both Matt and I really covered a lot of material. A lot of it was the same, and a lot of it circled back together. Hopefully, you saw there's a lot of synergy there around all of these things kind of weave in and out together. So I hope that, the messages were, you know, they they were the same, they supported each other, and that you got those messages. But please, please, throw something in the chat. Please let me know if you have a specific question we didn't answer. And then the last thing I'll mention is financial aid, but I'll just give everybody a minute. So let me know. Is there anything you really want to know? You can take yourself off mute. Hopefully you have that ability, I think. Is there anything we didn't answer?
So I have a question for you, Matt. Hi. So if a student this school year opted into the school's 100% distance learning model, and that curriculum that was used doesn't offer honors courses, there were a couple AP courses, but it didn't offer honors courses. And the student was typically on the honors track, and the student's now a junior, and it looks as if the student went from a rigorous coursework, and then to tie back into, you want to make sure that they're bumping that up each school year. And now it looks like the student now just took regular courses versus an honors course. So how will that impact the student's transcript?
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and sum this up based on what I heard. This year has been a challenging year. The student was on track to take a lot of challenging courses, still is taking challenging courses, but may not have chosen to take many APs and things, and they just chose to do the high school graduation requirements, but maybe do honors, but maybe not so much as they thought they were going to do. What will that impact as far as their admission to a college? Is that what I'm hearing?
There wasn't an option to take honors courses because the 100% distance learning model didn't have that.
Gotcha.
Had the student stayed and not opted into the 100%, then the student could have stayed on the honors track, but there wasn't an option to stay on the honors track.
Okay, so thank you for your clarification. The answer to your question is no issue for college admissions at whatever. No issue whatsoever. They're good to go. The only thing is, if they were limited to AP coursework, I just have to throw this out there as an honest answer, then if they could not take AP classes, then the only way to get college credit would be to take the AP exams on their own accord. All right, so that is the answer that I have. No judgment, no there's no judgment, there's no pressure to have that as the scenario. But then if they didn't have the AP classes as far as the courses incorporated into their program to get college credit, they would have to do that on their own. Does that make sense, Ms. Gomer? I don't know if I'm explaining correctly.
It does. It almost though brings up a point of something that maybe I can address in the school profile with a little couple blurb about that. Yes, we offer these courses, but due to the pandemic, many students chose for virtual learning, and these courses weren't offered because, you'll see kids and they'll have it. So if you didn't know that, I think colleges could assume like, oh, that kid just didn't choose to take it. Because when you get our college profile, you'll see we have all these, and then you'll have some students who did the hybrid learning and they took honors and AP. And then you'll get another kid who might have done our 100% virtual and they didn't have those options, but that you wouldn't know that possibly. The colleges wouldn't know that possibly. So maybe it's my job to have a small little blurb underneath our course listing to talk about this school year, since some students could have been on this track, honors and AP, and then all of a sudden it looked like they just didn't take those things and that they went down for some reason, but really it was just due to the pandemic.
So, and I'll just throw in one more thing, just to piggyback on what I said about relationships with college admissions counselors. We are here for you. And so this is an aspect that really warrants addressing.
Uh-huh.
If this is an issue where you wanted to take those courses but couldn't, or you couldn't be in class, or anything in that matter, so Miss Jamie, me, or any other college counselor, plus you, the family, and the student, we can all work together to address this. And if you wanted to take APs, but they weren't available, or you wanted to take honors and they weren't available, let's just go ahead and bring that out into the open and make that a part of the application.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it and then create an outcome that works for everybody. Okay. So that is something that is part of college admissions, is the relationships and the conversations that we have. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jamie and Matthew, for answering that.
Yeah. And so basically, moral of the story is get in touch with us. Any person that you're considering at the colleges that you're applying to, let us know what's going on and we will work with you. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm really glad Allison brought that up and that Matt answered that. And that within all applications, there'll be like a box that says like special considerations, or is there anything you want to share with us about something? And so there is all these opportunities in the Common App and then within individual applications to kind of highlight those kinds of things. So that, again, like Matt said, talk with us, talk with the colleges. Communication's key. So I really appreciate that. And I'm going to ask if there's any more questions, and then I'll just touch on FAFSA because I know financial aid is so important. So I'll just mention the EFC really quickly.
Jamie,
I
I have a quick question.
Yeah, please.
So again, kind of similar to how things have changed, especially with the kids who have chosen the Acellus option versus the
100% virtual
options. Yeah. So typically, since they're applying for colleges in their fall semester of their senior year, so they would be typically getting letters of recommendation from their junior teachers, junior year teachers. And that's, there's, I think like for my son's case, has one King K teacher because it was an elective that he couldn't get on Acellus. So what's your advice on letters of recommendation from teachers?
I know, you mentioned that to me one other time, and I'm glad you brought it up in this forum so that other people can hear it and Matt can weigh in on it. The truth is that I think everyone, the colleges are going to be very flexible and understand that we're in unprecedented times. And if students didn't have teachers and we're doing 100% learning, this is again another time, kind of like Allison touched on, if you didn't continue on with honors and AP, or you didn't have a teacher in junior year, that this is a place where you're going to utilize that extra space where you get to kind of say, hey, is there anything you want to tell us? Is there any special consideration? And it's like, I did distance learning. I couldn't take this class I wanted, and I needed to use my sophomore teachers, so I think everybody's going to understand that we're in a little bit of a different situation. And then hopefully we're also going to have senior teachers who, Usually, I would push the kids towards their junior teachers because they had them all year. But next year, if we're fully back on class and you've had a teacher for a full semester and it's an AP teacher, I'm probably going to recommend, hey, ask Mr. Ayersman from AP Stats or ask Mr. Rouse from AP Psych. Yeah, normally a junior year teacher who had you all year would have been ideal, but probably due to the situation, a senior year teacher or a sophomore is where we're going to have to go. And it's okay. I think everybody understands that we're just in different times and we're just going to have to make do the best we can. Matt.
Yeah, I wanted to throw something in there. We can adjust to the situations that we are experiencing right now as far as letters of recommendation and things like that. So if we're all online, what if you connect with somebody to write your letter of recommendation where you reached out to them via email and they connected with you? What if you did your own video conferencing with that professor or with that teacher? What if you met with them several times out of class and it just didn't end when class started and finished? How did you develop those relationships? And what does that mean for a letter of recommendation for college? And so all of these things are things that I recommend that you consider as you move forward into considering, like, what am I going to do senior year for letters of recommendation because I wasn't physically in class with these people? So emails, separate video conferencing, interaction in class. Can you stand out as a leader in class during a video conference? Absolutely you can. And do you know why? Because I know how to do that during a staff meeting when I work with my colleagues and you contribute your thoughts and ideas. You can bring that into your application when you apply to colleges. And so I consider students and parents to think about these things, because when we move into this next step that we're going into, it's all going to matter. So remember to reflect on what we're dealing with now and connect with the appropriate people that can help you for college. And think about the things that you've done during COVID to advance your progress. And we will consider that. And it matters, everybody. It matters. And it matters for me, even with my boss and the people that we work with, it matters for me. So think about all those things, okay?
Yeah, thanks so much.
Can I comment really fast? I typed it in, so sorry, I know just really fast, but
I'm going to take a look, actually. Let me see if you typed out.
So the problem is with the Acellus teachers is they don't actually teach them live. They're all pre-recorded teachings, so they never actually meet with these Acellus teachers.
I'm going to just step in just because I understand the situation really well. So really,
that's beyond me. I'm going to let Jamie do that. I am out of it, so we're not doing that.
So
okay.
A sophomore core teacher is going to be fine in this situation. In a normal world, you'd ask your junior core teacher. It's an upper level class. It would just be the better fit. You just had them the year before. But in this situation, you're going to use a sophomore core teacher, or if you make a good relationship with a senior year teacher first semester, it's an AP, it's going well. They can talk about how you perform in class, how you work within a group, your leadership, what you bring in the classroom. It'll be fine. It's going to be fine. I know it feels overwhelming. We're all so just bummed about the whole COVID. We're all just weary from it. And then the college planning, it just feels even that much more exhausting, but it really is going to be okay. Colleges are going to work with students, and students are going to rise to the occasion, and parents are just going to be as overwhelmed as they were before the pandemic and after the pandemic, because being a parent of a student going through the college process is overwhelming. It doesn't matter if it's a pandemic or not.
May I add something, though?
Yes, please.
Let's add a topic of initiative. Let's say everything's pre-recorded. Everybody's dealing with the same scenario. What are the students going to do to reach out and diversify? So are there going to be additional emails to follow up? Are they going to be separate video conferences? Can they stand out to bring in that knowledge to another level? Not only does that include their wealth of knowledge and kind of bringing it to another step, but that might even create inroads to opportunities in the future, colleges, all those different things are really important. And so what I'm thinking about is, okay, everybody's got video recordings. What is the student going to do with that? Okay. And then what you can do is bring that to the next step is, what if that's our reality in business, nursing, engineering, biology, anything in the future? What are you going to do to make that happen for yourself? And so I think these are really great opportunities to connect with, even though it's a struggle right now because it's strange, it's new. Maybe it's not new in the next couple of years. How are students going to be ready for that? And so I actually honor your question. I think it's amazing, but it's also an opportunity to move forward. And what are students going to do with that? I think cherish it and move forward and see what happens. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and also know that I will also be writing a letter of rec, and so I'm their counselor, so they also get a counselor letter of recommendation. So they're gonna have opportunities. Yeah, I will be talking about how they persevered through this pandemic in all kinds of ways. So, it's 8:02. So we're getting past the 8 o'clock timeline. So I just want to make sure that the financial aid piece gets touched on because I know how important it is to families. So October is when you're going to apply for the FAFSA. So you don't have to worry between now and then about applying for the FAFSA, but you can do an estimated family contribution calculator. So there's a few of them in the world. Let me just screen share real quick. There's a couple great ones. So if you do EFC calculator, EFC stands for Estimated Family Contribution. I love this one personally, only because I love Big Future, because you can search for colleges. And before we had Naviance, it was my go-to. So I know it so well. And the students, because they take the PSAT and they take the SAT and they take AP courses, they tend to have a College Board account. So they can just go in. They can go in there, they give information about their family, it gives you a little information about the formula. You put in the parents' info, you put in the students' info, you put in finances, and you get your results. And from there, you can get an idea. Will I qualify for the Pell Grant? Does the government, and now know that the FAFSA is a two-part thing. So you fill out the FAFSA, and the first thing it will tell you is if you qualify for the Pell Grant. That's great news. Do I get $6,000+ or not? Or do I get a portion or do I get none? But the second most important and possibly a bigger part for more families, because if you don't qualify for the Pell Grant, you don't. But what it will still do for you is it will give you your EFC, your estimated family contribution. And then you are going to send that. You'll have the ability to send it to 10 schools. And if you're applying more than 10 schools, you don't have to worry. After it's processed and it sends to those schools, you can go back in, you can drop schools, you can add more schools. The schools you drop still have your FAFSA. You add schools, then they get your FAFSA. And so you send that EFC to them, and then they have a number to work with. It's like, okay, your EFC says you can pay 4,000. It says you can pay 8. It says you can pay 18. I've seen EFCs as high as over $100,000. So, it's really going to depend on, your financial situation, how much income you created, how many people are in your family, how much investments you have, and then how much savings you have. So it's a really straightforward process on a lot of levels. And then Other schools who offer a lot of financial aid, a lot of private schools also use the CSS profile, which digs a little bit deeper, and that will do the non-custodial parents. So one of the things about the FAFSA is that it looks at your family income. So the student's family. So if a student lives with a mom and it's just student and mom, dad's not in the picture, it just looks at mom's income and mom's savings and mom's investments and student savings and student income and student investments. That's it. Now, there might be a non-custodial parent. There could be a dad in the picture, and he might be providing money. He might not be. He might be able to help with money. He might not be, but he's not in the FAFSA. It could be the other way around. I don't want to be sexist. Student could live with dad, and we're reporting student and dad's income. I'm just saying that in the case of parents who aren't together, you're only going to be reporting one of the parents. Now, if that parent remarried, you'll be reporting that parent and step parent. And so you will be reporting what they call the custodial parent, who is custody. Now, there's some schools that will also want to know, because they're willing to give you more money, they meet all need. They're going to want to know, what about that non-custodial parent? And that's called a CSS profile. And that will look at not just the custody parent, but the non-custodial parent. And now I'm starting to get into the next level of financial aid. So I'm not going to get in above my head or your head. I'm just going to say that right now you can look up E like Echo, F like Frank, C like cat, EFC, Estimated Family Contribution Calculator. There's a bunch of them. And you can just get an understanding. You can just throw in your taxes. You don't need exact numbers. You don't need to link it to your taxes. You don't have to know how much money you have in the bank. You can just average things. You can say, oh, I don't know, I made this much. You can play around. It's just a calculator. And I really recommend you do that, because that will help when it's time to look at schools. It's like, okay, it says I could pay this much. And then you have a little kind of bit of a better understanding of where you're at financially, about the expectations a college will have about what you can pay. You can always appeal a financial aid package. Again, now we're getting into bigger things that we don't need to talk about tonight. It's 8:07. People got to get to their family, and you might not have eaten and dinner, and I don't know what you have to get to, but I do want you to know about the EFC. I do want you to know I'm available. We can have a meeting. We can talk more about financial aid. I'm available all school year to meet, talk about college search, talk about a list, talk about financial aid, talk about testing. We can meet on Zoom. We can meet in person. I can do student. I can do student parent. I can even, sometimes parents just want to meet with me to just run some things by me. And sometimes students don't want parents, and I just meet with students. And then sometimes I meet with student, and then sometimes I meet with student and parent. It's not like a one shot, like, oh, I met with you, that's it. So I can meet with you multiple times. It's a big time in your life. I want to be here however I can support you. And the college admissions officers, like Matt, are the same way. They really, really want to help you. So it's not a dog eat dog world. It's a really like loving world where college admissions officers want to hear from you, and they want you to apply, and they want you to come to their school. And so there's a lot of resources. And I honestly, we only touched on like a small amount of them. There's so much more to share. So I will be sending out an email tomorrow. It'll include the recording of this video. It'll include all the PowerPoints. It'll include a bunch of great articles, and then a bunch of resources that I didn't even do yet. And so I just got a couple like a couple direct texts right away, like, wait, tell me about the meeting. Okay, so meeting. I am available for you. I've never not had seniors. This is my first time ever I don't have seniors. Like the last 8, 9 years, I had seniors, and I couldn't even get my head up to deal with juniors until spring. This is my first year where we have a second college counselor. She's handling seniors this year. And I actually am at your beck and call, juniors. I mean, there's other things I'm doing like testing and ACT and SBA and, whatever, a zillion other hats I wear. But really my big primary focus is juniors and then freshmen. But freshmen just need to settle in. They just need to be successful and we can't be getting too worried about financial aid yet. So I am at your beck and call. You can make an appointment anytime. I can meet with you anytime. I can meet in person. I can meet online. So just reach out. You can respond to the email I sent. Or the students have my email. You can even call me. Although honestly, I respond so much better by email. I can't keep up with my voicemails. I come in, the red light's blinking. I check it. I call you. Then there's a voicemail. I leave a voicemail. Then you call me back. You leave a voicemail. Then we're playing phone tag. It's email me and I'll get right back to you. And then because one more minute, I will tell you one other thing I have, and that is I created a website for you guys. I did share it with you. Let's see if I have it open. I think I opened it. Oh, darn, it's not that one. Hold on. I have, again, too much time. Oh, no, it's this one. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Yay. So I don't know if you saw this. It's underneath my signature on that emails I sent you. And it's really specific to you guys. There I am. Yay, I'm here. And then I built out all these great helpful things. So when I talked about rigor earlier, if you go in here and you click read more, you can find out more about rigor, what it is. And then there's graduation requirements versus college requirements, importance of rigor, like a great article about rigor, choosing the right classes, why it's important. And then if you go back to home, there's also admissions testing. We talked about that. College research. We talked about that. Applications and essays. We really didn't get into that, mostly because it's not time yet. That's going to be a fall thing that we will dig deep. But you might want to know a little bit about this. So if you go into this, you want to get and again, I will be talking more about this in the spring. So applications, help colleges get to know you. The Common App, UC versus CSU. Financial aid, grants and scholarships. And so I talk a little bit about that. College is expensive, but don't worry, there's ways to lessen the financial stress. And then there's understanding financial aid. And then the FAFSA forecaster is kind of like the EFC calculator. They changed it a little bit. And that's why I still like the EFC calculator, because the FAFSA forecaster does the same thing, but they changed it a little bit this year. And then I'll also send you this. So every year we have the same schools come visit us, and these schools are the same schools our kids go to every year. And so I put this little thing together. It lets you know the average package, how many students are there, how many majors, the student faculty ratio, the acceptance rate. That's really important. If we have alumni, the total costs. I also do something that Matt mentioned. It's not on everyone, but some of them, it talks about their graduation rate, which is a really nice thing. 84% freshman retention rate. So that means that after freshman year, 84% of the students go on the sophomore year. That's a really nice rate you want to kind of be aware of. Internships, how many students complete an internship? Students who complete internships more likely to kind of go into a field similar because they have experience. On-time graduation rate, that's a huge thing because you save a ton of money. So 83% on-time graduation rate, 94% students go on to sophomore year. 83% of the faculty hold a PhD. So these are the schools that our students go to. These aren't random schools at all. These are the schools that visit us and that our schools go to. So you can see, look, Cal Poly, Jalen Domingo, class of 2017. And I got these students permission to put their names on my slides. Nick Stevenson, 2018. Ohia Hall, 2019. And I have to add 2020. I actually didn't update it yet. University of San Fran. So these are schools, Puget Sound, Menlo, Oregon State. And they're actually in order of the schools coming. So Portland's later, Matt. I'm sorry. It has to do with when you come visit. I try to put them in order. See, look, 90% freshman retention rate. So 9 out of 10 students come back for a sophomore year. You know, how big's the campus? 108 acres, 14-1 student faculty. Profe Arcus is an alumni. I mean, actually, a ton of students are alumni. I should definitely add that. Lainey Hisashima's there this year. Students go there. It actually, for a bunch of years, it was like the #1 school outside of Hawaii schools that our students attend is University of Portland. So we get a list of schools in order that our students attend, and outside of Hawaii schools, University of Portland's been #1 for many years. So yay, Matt, taking good care of our
We
kids.
do what we can. So the most important thing is that it's the right fit for all
I
of you.
agree.
So that's my main concern. So,
I agree. So it's 8:16. We talked your ears off. Please email me. We can do Zoom. We can do in person. We can do student, just student. We can do just parent. You know, ideally, we meet at some point student and parent, because sometimes I talk with student, then I talk with parent, and we're saying different things. And what we really want to do is we're all one team. We want to all talk the same thing so that we all know and have the same expectations together. And we're all working as one team. So yes, thank you all. Last minute for questions before we say goodbye.
I'll just throw out one more thing. If you want to connect with the University of Portland, I can do the same thing. We can do Zooms, we can do phone calls, we can do FaceTimes, we can do whatever it is that you need. If you're a junior and you want to learn more about University of Portland, I'm your counselor. I'm happy to connect with you. And if you don't know how to connect with me, just contact Miss Jamie and we will get connected. All right. Good luck with your college search, and thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate everything that you're all going through. I mean, we're all really on the planet right now going through the same thing. And wear a mask, all right? We love all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody. It's your last chance. And if I don't see a question on the chat or you don't speak up, I'm gonna hit the end meeting for all so you can go back to your families on this
Thank you.
Tuesday night. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. You're amazing.
Oh, thanks, Matt. You're the best. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Alyssa. Thanks, Kanalu. Thanks, Kamalani. Thanks, Allison. Good night, everyone. Bye, Ben. Bye, Rayleigh. Ali, I single-handedly removed.
You gotta stop recording first.